Logo in the beginning?
No. It's all yours now.
Oh, so we're live?
Over to you. We're live.
No jingle and no intro. Okay, so welcome to this uHangout. And today I'm delighted to do the intro because I'm interning at Warren's show today.
Hello.
So the very quick intro to you, Warren, is that you've been in the Umbraco community for pretty much forever, for ages.
For a long time.
Yeah, and you've done like a ton of packages, like Creative Website Starter, the Analytics package, you've built parts of Optimus, you dabbled in Geoman, Slack, Angular, Visual Studio, NuGet, pretty much everything that has to do with web development and Umbraco.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and you always look like a 12-year-old.
I'm always going to stay 12, forever.
Forever 12, and you're probably one of the nicest people in the Umbraco community.
Thank you.
Yep, and now you're also a talk show host, and you've been there.
Yeah, but I haven't got Larry King's braces, or I've got a big mic though.
Yeah. So this is your latest creation. So uHangout, and that's why we're here today, and that's why I'm here today. So it's uHangout is 1 year old today.
Yeah, roughly about around this time last year, I decided to just do this, I suppose.
Yeah. So how many shows have you done?
What number are we on today? In theory, it should be 52, one for every week, but obviously life and holiday gets in the way. But I think we're on, 38? So, yeah, it's not too bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep. So, the quick intro to Warren Buckley, what is that? So, how old are you, actually?
How old do you think I am? 12. I'm just gonna change my name to Peter Pan and just be done with it. Yeah. And but no, so I've been doing Umbraco stuff for, like you say, for a long time. Probably now coming up 7-ish years now. Was an intern or like a junior web developer at a previous company. Discovered or stumbled across Umbraco. Was a perfect fit, and then ever since then just kind of fell in love with it and kind of grown to love it over the years. So no, I really enjoyed it, and it's a good thing that I've kind of specialized in or a niche in, and it's probably a fun community to kind of be around and do stuff in. So yeah.
I actually dug out your first messages in the Yahoo group.
This is bet they're interesting. Yeah. Please help! It doesn't work.
I think you went through the exact same process as everybody in those days.
Just shouty, angry messages.
No, you were very polite. You were very polite.
Was it always like please and thank you at the end?
Yes, exactly. And you were working for Momo at the time.
Oh yeah, Momo. Yeah, that was my first job.
Yeah. If you go to momo.co.uk now, you are offered adultery websites and porn.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they're around anymore, unfortunately.
So, anyways, your first post back then was something about creating tables, permission issues with the database.
Ooh, exciting!
You had those, and then you went on, and your site content could not load. That was the next one, and then finally you got like XSLT issues. And
XSLT.
Those three in those days. So it's a classic.
Yeah. So help me! I don't understand this XPath. What am I doing?
What is this shit?
Yeah. That sounds about right. So obviously back in the day it was obviously the Yahoo user group, which was interesting when you would obviously forums were not a commonplace back then as such, and writing an email to a group of people and then hoping that one person out of 50, 100 people from that group would read it and then nicely respond to you. But yeah, it was nice to get some responses back then.
There's still a couple of people from those days around, I guess.
Doug, Casey, obviously Niels, you, Darren, and Ismail.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about uHangout.
Okay. Yep.
I'm having a hard time pronouncing the name though. But
okay. Should we just rename it to something?
Yeah, let's rename it to something else. Like
Per Show. What's that? What was that comment?
Something short.
Just something short. Just you.
You.
There you go. One letter.
Yeah. Great. So, anyways, why did you decide to do this? Was it just because you could, because of Hangouts, or?
I think half of it was I could, because like you say, Google Hangout was a tool that was around and allows us to kind of do this live and kind of stream it to YouTube. So that was one half of it, but the other half was to in our Umbraco, in the kind of the wider community, there's a lot of kind of good stuff going on, and kind of packages and things like that. Obviously, we've got the kind of the most top 5 recent, but if you come back in a busy month and come back later in the week, those kind of top 5 have come with a new top 5, and those packages don't kind of get discovered. So the idea was behind it kind of like a show and tell, kind of just get a bit more awareness of what everyone's up to, really. And it's interesting and awesome to kind of see what everyone is doing and the diversity of things that people do with Umbraco. So that was the reason why. Yeah. And yeah, it was just a good way to kind of build up a little bit of confidence as well, do some more talking, and yeah, so it was good.
Cool. So the very first show, what was that about? Do you remember?
No. I think I had, who did I have on? I think I just randomly asked someone like the day before, who wants to have a chat or something, or who wants to, and I actually don't know. I think it's, I'm frantically now looking, YouTube, whilst I'm quickly looking, I think it might have even been Ishmael. Let's have a quick look. Oh no, okay, so there's, it was a guy called John Humphrey. So I think he was doing kind of a showcase. He had recently built some site, and he was demoing, I think, some faceted search, if I remember. So yeah, no, that was the first ever one.
Yeah, so just a quick show and tell, and you just did it.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I built this awesome website, and it's like, okay, let's talk about it. Why is it awesome? Why is it so good? And what are you kind of proud of? So yeah.
Yeah. So has the setup changed since then, or is that still the same?
It's kind of still the same. I think maybe over time it will evolve. It's now kind of, it's not product placement. That's not the word. People are doing kind of more packages, or kind of more a fully fledged idea or something they want to kind of show off, rather than this is a case study, or this is kind of something small I've worked on. It's more kind of Jerome and Yevon did the hybrid framework, so they wanted to show that off. We've got things like Neil's obviously showing Umbraco as a service, so it's more kind of bigger demos, I would say, as opposed to just kind of informal chats, which is something I kind of want to do more of, is just trying and...
You want to go back to the informal?
A little. It's good to just sometimes semi-podcast style, just to listen to something whilst you do some coding or something, so just to have a more broader discussion of tools available in the community, what's going on, and but maybe obviously not as frequent as the more weekly demo stuff. So yeah, a mix of stuff.
So what have you learned by doing this? So running a...
So what have I learned? It's how interesting and varied that what people get up to. So I've learned actually kind of practical things that I've taken away from some of this stuff. So talking to people, it's like, oh, I actually didn't know this existed, or oh, that's a nice technique they've done in code or whatever. So there's actually kind of practical things I've taken away, which has been kind of very beneficial. So that's been good. Along with that, what else have I learned? Yeah, just how fun and friendly the community is, I suppose. And what else? Nothing else that springs to mind, but yeah, it's been a nice and enjoyable experience to kind of get to chat to all these people. And if I didn't do this, I wouldn't get to chat to kind of as many people as I do, which is good.
That's cool. So, anything you want to improve about this?
Improve? I suppose make it a little bit more polished. It's still kind of very informal, very kind of rough and ready in terms of I always run late normally because it's like on a Friday and it's like lunchtime. It's like, oh crap, it's like a couple of minutes to I'm supposed to go grab some food. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Adam just wandering around. And yeah, we could do with a jingle, like you said. I think Dan. Pun?
A jingle would be
jingle. Good. Yeah. I think Dan Lister created me one, but I can't find it anymore. It's a little jingle, and yeah, that'd be good. No. So there's a couple of ideas. Like I said, keep the kind of show and tell of demos, keep going, but more informal kind of maybe like quarterly chats, and try and get these kind of AMA styles, or Ask Us, or whatever it's called, Reddit's Ask Us Anything styles. So that was also a popular kind of hangout session when we did back, I don't know, back in earlier in the year, when we kind of done a uHangout with the whole entire Umbraco team. So that would be good to kind of do more of them, maybe twice a year or something. So like once in the beginning of the year, once at the end of the year, and then anyone can just fire a bunch of questions at you guys and get live feedback. And then kind of the third and final thing would be to do very kind of small tips or tricks, or kind of like I've learned this thing this week, or maybe not be weekly, but I've learned this new coding technique. This might be useful for you, and see if we can do something like that.
Does it get any easier to just start recording and talking about stuff, or do you need more? There's still amount of planning every time.
I try to plan it as best as, but if I plan too much, then it's not natural. So I'd rather just watch someone do their demo, and then just kind of interject and watch as if, yeah, I've not seen it before, which is how I do it. Because if it's rehearsed and things like that, then I don't think it's always as interesting or as authentic. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I myself could probably do a bit with preparation and knowing kind of what to talk about and stuff like that. But that's life.
But if you have to do a script every time, and
it's like, hello, today my name is Warren.
then it just gets into a drawer instead of something that's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what has been your favorite episode?
As a hard one, because there's a diverse range of episodes. So it's a bit hard to just say, yeah, pick this specific one. But I thoroughly enjoyed the one, like I said, the AMA style one that we done together as the Umbraco kind of HQ. I think that went on for an hour one night. Obviously, after a few drinks and some wine, was semi-amusing at the time. And obviously some useful information that come out of it as well. So I think that for me is my personal favorite. So.
Yeah, that's nice. You had the fire on. And
oh yeah, exactly. I had the fire, and I had my cravat on. Yeah. That's how I spend most of my nights.
Okay. So got a question from Craig actually. So do you have any stats on your show? And
stats?
Yeah. So like viewers.
Okay. So let's have a look. I don't actively kind of track it, if I'm honest. Any kind of views or counts like that is great. I think we've got just under just under a couple of hundred subscribers, and coming up to about 7,000 or 8,000 views in total of all the videos, without skimming through all the analytics and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a reasonable amount. It's not. I'm not going to be like #1 YouTube channel or something like that. It's a very niche. It's a very niche channel, so it's the analytics are not going to be through the roof. But I think it's slowly getting out to the wider Umbraco community, so the numbers are growing.
Cool. So you always start the show with that thing. So
what thing?
Your standard question is.
Oh, okay.
Find Umbraco, and how did you get started?
Oh, okay.
You already covered that, I guess, with the mailing list and.
Oh yeah, exactly. The frantic mailing lists, and I think I got more involved as time went on. When it's like, oh, okay, this is free, and people are helping me. Maybe I can do something that maybe a skill that I learned and kind of give something back. And at the time, I think it was. So I was working at Momo, and we had a designer, and I was bugging him a lot in terms of like learning design stuff. And the starter kit at the time previous to that was obviously, I don't know if you remember, it was like was it the guy on the cross, or like
very old starter kit? Yeah,
really old one. I can't remember, but the design was a bit weird at the time, and I was like, oh, I don't particularly like this. And
it was called Knight Rider.
Oh, it was Knight Rider, was it?
It was Knight Rider, but it was like the Brazilian Jesus statue.
Okay.
I don't know why, but yeah. I have no idea.
Fine.
I had nothing to do with that. But yeah, I remember finding that as well, and you couldn't install it, and it was really strange.
Yeah, so at the time I was like, ooh. So obviously web fonts was obviously not commonplace back then, 7-8 years ago. So Cipher was the in thing, Cipher, the Flash font replacement.
That was the good old days.
Oh yeah.
Thank
God, we don't have to do that anymore.
So yeah.
So yeah, I created starter kit, or a better, or what I thought was a better starter kit, and tried to creative.
It was way
heavily document kind of the XSLT. This is doing this, and this is doing this for this reason. So it was kind of what I had learned that everyone had kind of helped taught me. So it was like, okay, I'll try and help new people come into the platform to understand it as well. So that was my kind of big key contribution, or the very big first contribution.
Yeah, there's when I talk to a lot of those old timers, I often hear that they say that the creative website starter kit was really what kind of was a big influence in actually learning Umbraco and not giving up on it.
Yep.
Because they actually gave like a full sight of what was going on and how the different parts were structured, and
so just trying to give like a very simple, like this bit is connected to this bit, and this bit works in relation to this. So I think at the time it was kind of a very kind of fragmented example. So here's just a navigation, or here is just like a repeater for doing something. So yeah, it was trying to just glue all those pieces of knowledge together in kind of one common place and try and document it at the same time.
Yeah. So what was the motivation about doing that?
What was the motivation? Like I said, I think it was a lot of people had helped me. So I was young and I was a junior, and a lot of people had helped me kind of help kickstart my career, I suppose, just by this is how you do this and this is how you do that. So it's like, okay, I know a little about some other stuff, more front-endy stuff at the time, and it's like, okay, maybe I can contribute my front-end knowledge at the time and just give that back. It was as a way of saying thank you to everyone else and anyone else coming across the platform. So yeah, that was the key motivation, just a way to say thanks and to do it as a learning experience myself. It was like, okay, as I do this, I'm gonna improve my own set of skills as we go along. So that was the reason why.
Cool. So since those early days, what has been there's a lot of things happening since then. So both, positive and negative. What has been like the biggest changes since those good old days? Projects and community.
So back when the early days, things like the templating engine was this was a big thing for me at the time. Was like going from, there was a proprietary templating engine in Umbraco with its own custom tags, and then we went to like .NET master pages, and that was like, wow, this is amazing. We've got some kind of standard thing in .NET that we can reuse, and oh, this is awesome. So for me, that was a big change at going through the history.
Yeah.
And
that was in version 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, around version 3, I think. Yeah. So that was a nice, awesome change. So we didn't have to have all these kind of weird tags, and yeah. You'd always have to Google the syntax, and it's like, oh.
I can't remember them anymore, but they were awesome. It was like,
oh yeah. I think we should just bring it back.
Yeah, I think you can still see them today. Actually, if you go and if you have a macro inside of a regex editor.
Yeah.
That stuff in that regex editor, I think that is still saved as an old macro tag actually.
Ooh.
Database, and that is then converted when it gets into Razor. I think it's still there deep down. So. Deep
down under the hood.
Yeah. At least it used to be. I don't know if it's anymore.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Shannon or some of the other real programmers have actually replaced it.
Oh, what? So that was a nice key change. Making the switch from XSLT to Razor, I was strongly in the XSLT camp for a very, very long time, and kind of a bit resistant at the time when Razor come along. Not very anti it, but now after using it, I don't know how long has it been around? 3-4 years now?
Yeah, it's been like that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happily converted, and I don't think I've looked at an XSLT file for a long time. And I think if one was put in front of me today, I wouldn't know what to do, and I'd be like back at that Yahoo user group. What the hell is this XPath? what is it doing? So yeah, so the Razor stuff is has been a great change in the product, and I think helped drive in the adoption of Umbraco as well. So, and then obviously more up to date to like today, understanding more things like web API and how you can just use snippets of data like JSON and APIs, and using that with kind of front-endy tools such as Angular or Ember or Knockout, and just using doing kind of lot client-side driven stuff, and then using an API to do some pushing and pulling of data and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm enjoying at the minute anyway.
What about the community? Has that changed any significant way since those old days?
I think it's obviously got bigger, is number one. So it's not like 20 or 30, or how many else there was at the time. We're now obviously talking thousands of thousands. But
what was your first code garden? How many were there when you were there?
That was 07. So that was the only one time it went anywhere else, which was London. London, yeah.
Well, it has actually been in Chicago. But...
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that doesn't count. Anyway.
That don't count. So yeah, so that was 07 in London. So what? I think there was 100 people there maybe, and during those 2 days I actually got a chance to talk to near enough everyone. So I remember it being that small enough that I could talk to everyone. So obviously with code gardens these days, that you'll be lucky if you can talk to a third of the people, just because there's not enough hours in the day to get around to talk to everyone.
Well, if you get through a third, then you still have to talk to like 120.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, how's it changed? I think it's got a lot more friendlier. I think the quality of community contributions has got a whole lot more professional. Things like commercial packages and quality kind of open source packages like Michello, like the guys at Mindfly are doing, a very kind of professional and polished open source project. Obviously back in the early days it was like, I've just figured out how to do this, and kind of just share a snippet or whatever. No, these days it's more kind of a really kind of polished with documentation and kind of either video tutorials have come along the way, or yeah, I think overall the community's kind of matured and grown up. So yeah, it's been fun along the way.
Do people put more pride into the stuff they release?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a real kind of pride in terms of I suppose putting your name to something as well, putting your work out there. There's always probably a little bit of fear of being your work being judged and some judgmental stuff going on. But I think yeah, there's a ton of pride in terms of putting your code out there and accepting contributions from other people to make yourself a better developer as you go on.
So do you think there's any reason to worry about being judged about stuff?
No, far from it. I probably back in the early days I would have had second thoughts about doing it, but I think without doing these kind of community contributions, myself as a developer wouldn't have got better over the years, because the best things I've learned has been from collaborating with other people on projects, or getting feedback and things like that. And it's like, well, have you thought about doing it this way, and have you thought about doing it that way? It's never been harsh criticism. It's always been constructive, and taking those kind of feedback on board. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And why didn't I do it this way in the first place? And no, it's really helped me kind of grow. And I think a lot more people should, any knowledge they can kind of contribute, be it they might have skills in user experience, they might have skills in database architecture. So any kind of knowledge that you're willing to kind of contribute, and that's fantastic.
Cool. So looking at your hour profile, your GitHub profile, you probably have like 30 packages on hour you're involved in. So you contribute on some of them, and some of them you released, and some don't do anymore. And then you have, I guess, like 20 GitHub repositories with various things in.
Yeah, so GitHub is just kind of like the scratch pad for, it's like, oh, okay, I thought of this idea, I'll just spin up a repository and do a bit of hacking and if it makes sense. Could someone reuse this? Could it be kind of generic and worthwhile for someone else to reuse it? Then if so, then a package normally comes out of it. I think more later on, like more recently, there kind of been smaller kind of either a file or a small chunk of work, but obviously with the exception of an analytics package, which was a big job, but it was a community-driven effort as well, with some contributions from other people. But yeah, even though there might be that many, most of them are kind of one-file things, or it does this tiny little thing. You might find it useful as well. So there's only a few exceptions with analytics and probably the starter kit stuff. They're kind of the only kind of bigger projects that have a lot of time was probably invested, where other things have been, oh, I've learnt this over a few lunch times during a week, I think this might be a cool idea, and just submit it that way.
Cool. So all this stuff that you actually do and contribute to the community and stuff on, you do pull requests on the core and documentation as well, but why do you do it?
Why? I think, so let's talk about the core and pull requests on the core and documentation. I think a lot of people complain that documentation doesn't exist or is not there, when most of us who've used the Umbraco for a while have experience with it, to avoid those kind of types of questions or those criticisms, we could all spend, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes writing a short piece of documentation on a specific topic that, okay, I understand this very well inside Umbraco, and kind of contribute it back. The kind of the effort that it takes is very minimal, but helps such a wider kind of audience in terms of other people getting started and trying to find documentation. So it's insanely easy to contribute. Doesn't always have to be code. So documentation could be a video that goes in a documentation. It could be a screenshot that associates with a documentation. So that's probably the easiest way to get kind of involved and contribute. But the reasons why I done it was more, again, it was, I've been in this community for a long time. It's helped me out tremendously. I have a career in it. So to help other people it's just a nice feeling, I suppose. It's just nice to think, okay, I've done a tiny bit of documentation that might help someone else one day, when they've been pulling their hair out for hours and hours on end just because they couldn't get one thing. So it's nice to think that, okay, I might have helped someone, even if it's one person. It's one person less who's less frustrated and then writing shouty comments in the forum or something.
What about people who say, I want to contribute, but I have no idea how, and it takes time, and my boss will do it because it'll cost money, and I'll sit here and do nothing that's not work related, and
so so it doesn't, like I said, the documentation is not entirely web related. You can write a piece of content. So the documentation stuff lives on GitHub. It's just markdown files. You don't even need to understand Git. You can use GitHub's website and press the edit button, and then edit the documentation in kind of the editor, and then preview it, and then just hit commit and create a pull request. So and on our Umbraco, isn't there? I think there's an entire section on how to contribute with some guidelines and things like that, and why you'd want to, and kind of what's the process. So, I think it's a lot easier. I think it's easier than people think it is. I think people get scared, like, oh my god, making a contribution is going to be such hard work. I think more and more people should try and contribute something back, just to say if they've been using it for a long time, and just to contribute something back, be it documentation or an idea, or try and help someone out on the forum, like who might be struggling with some similar frustration that you might have had 6 months ago, and you go, oh, I know how to solve that. But rather than let them suffer in silence, you kind of take the 5 minutes or a couple of minutes and go, look, this is how I resolved it, and this is how I got around that problem. And I'm sure that person at the other end would be very thankful. Yeah,
so just the very, very basics of actually doing that on GitHub is very easy, right? So just for people who don't know what.
Yeah. Okay. So the documentation stuff is really that's probably the most simplest way to get involved with contribution. You don't need to know any code as long as you can write a sentence and click a few buttons. Click a few buttons in on a website. In this case, GitHub. It's very simple to kind of contribute documentation back. So it's click, browse to the GitHub repository for the Umbraco documentation, find the physical file or the piece of documentation you want to edit, click the edit button, make the change, commit, and that's near enough it. Someone on the Umbraco documentation repository team will just quickly skim over it, review it, make sure it's okay, and you're not putting profanities in or something, or a massive picture of a knob or something. Once that's done, then obviously it'll get approved, and then it'll be part of the main repo.
So didn't you do like a change on our Umbraco so you can actually just browse on documentation?
Yeah, so I done a pull request. So I'd seen this on another site somewhere recently. I was browsing some API documentation, and they have documentation on GitHub, but the kind of the API friendly browser site that you kind of browse through. So like on our Umbraco, we have the documentation section. And now we have in the top right-hand corner, we have an edit button, which takes you straight to the related markdown file or the documentation file in the GitHub repository. So in there, you can kind of review the documentation. You can then click the edit button, make the change, and go back. So there's a nice, easier workflow, I think, now. That if you see something on our Umbraco documentation pages, you can go, oh, I don't quite agree with that, or I think this could be improved, or an example could be added to this. You can just click that edit button in the top right, and then that will take you to GitHub, to the associated document, and then you can make that change.
Cool. That's good. It makes it much easier to actually figure out.
Yeah, I think so. Rather than, okay, where does the documentation live? I think it was on GitHub. What was the repository address? And yeah, so I think this is just a little easier for people to find that now.
Cool. So let me see if I have any more questions left for you.
Okay.
I missed on something. So we already talked about contribution. The easy stuff that you can do. You could work on making documentation easy.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of the baseline entry if you want to do contribution. Documentation is probably the easiest way to get started.
Yeah. And I think also we have a lot of issues on the issue tracker that's marked as easy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so the Umbraco issue tracker, if you prefer to write code and documentation, because obviously most developers, we don't like to document stuff. We much prefer to write code and do stuff and make things spin or whatever we want to do. And so, like you say, if that's something you prefer to do, like you say, you can. Is it a filter down the left-hand side or something? On our Umbraco, no, is it issues.umbraco.org?
I can't actually remember. I think there's like a.
Is it like a filter on the left or something? You like filter for easy tasks, and then you can find like, oh, there's a typo in this section, or there's the color should be red or something because it's green.
It's like small things that.
Easy to kind of contribute and fix and kind of do a pull request. So. Yeah, that's another good way to get started, isn't it? If you prefer doing code over documentation.
Yeah. So, one question actually. One of the things that people have been telling me to ask you is, how do you get time to do all these things?
How do I find the time? Try and make time. Some people say that maybe the commute I have is probably quite long. Obviously, it's an hour and a half currently from where I live to London each way. So I try and use some of that time sitting on the train. Unfortunately, there's never enough room to get the laptop out, but there might be time to with my phone or just with a notepad and pen sketch out or think out some ideas. So that gives me some thinking time in terms of kind of either ideas or something to kind of think about, and then try to, during lunch times, as long as I'm not exhausted or don't have errands to do or haven't got any other stuff and I'm not too busy, I'll try and use the lunch times proactively from those kind of ideas or notes and kind of go, okay, I had this idea, how easy would it be to implement this piece of JavaScript to do X, Y, Z, or how easy was it to do some web API call in .NET or something, or so it's just little bits on that. So then it will be maybe 3 out of the 4 days, or 3 out of the 5 days during the week at lunchtimes, just doing a little bit of hacking, and then that built on weeks and weeks and weeks might then become an idea, a GitHub repository, and then maybe that might grow into a package release. So it's just trying to use the time effectively. So yeah, commute time is for me just ideas and thinking, and then lunch times where normally I'm sitting at my desk anyway, eating a sandwich, might as well just try and use some of that time proactively.
Cool. So that was also my biggest question: is how do you get time for this? But then
yeah, I think you have to make time. And obviously, once I'm home, I try to totally switch off. It doesn't always work, but most of the time, 9 times out of 10, family life and stuff at home needs to stay at home, and work stuff stays at work.
Cool. I think that's my question. The only thing I have left is about the future. So you're
about the future. Ooh.
Yeah, about the future. Where do you see everything going?
Is it like one of those dodgy interview questions? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Yeah, and then we have like fireworks, and then your mum.
Oh yes, are we going into this is our life, yeah. This is the coffee barista, and this is
eyes.
the your neighbor next door. I'm expecting them to come through the door behind me, but they're not, are they?
I can put some marching music on.
Oh yeah, please do.
Did you know that Ohio State University marching band has made a cover track of "Don't Stop Believing"?
Oh wow.
Okay, well that's the music for that. No, so what I actually meant to ask you was that you work as a Umbraco developer. That's your title, or you're more web developer. You also do Angular and JavaScript and. Yeah,
I think it's more widely a web developer, but obviously I work at Cogworks. We specialize in Umbraco, so yes, 90% of my work is Umbraco related, and maybe the 10% might be front end or doing some JavaScript or doing something else. So
where do you see all this going? So obviously JavaScript is the big thing right now. So
yeah, I think it's only going to get bigger. Personally, JavaScript is the glue between it all, I'd say. You was just telling me before we started, you saw some crazy demo yesterday at some conference where, what was it? Some guy was using Node.js to stream an ISO file from BitTorrent or something, some insane thing.
Yeah, so
and obviously that's all just written in JavaScript. It's like, what? So yeah, I definitely think it's the future. It's obviously we've got all the browser APIs that are coming out. Similarly with mobile development as well, with things like Cordova to do cross-mobile development. That's all written with JavaScript and HTML. So I think if you're not learning JavaScript now, you're going to be pulling your hair out in maybe 3 or 4 years' time, because I think that's where the web is going. And we'll just have more kind of web API endpoints, and that we'll do some posts or gets and things like that, and that will do some server-side manipulation, and we get some data back, and then we'll either bind against it, do something with it in the UI, and back and forth, and just keep repeating that pattern. So keep the UI very fragmented away from the data layer, and the data layer do what it needs to do in terms of any data. So yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe the next 2 or 3 years to figure out what kind of where the whole web in general goes.
So where do you see Umbraco fitting into that?
I think Umbraco is a good role. It's still it's a CMS that allows us web developers to build sites for our clients with a nice UI tool, and it still kind of gets out of the way as web developers in terms of front end or the applications that we want to build. So Umbraco might power some Cordova phone application, or it might power a normal website, or it might power I don't know, some TV screen, or yeah, I guess see it as a way of delivering content, and then it's up to us developers to how we retrieve that content from Umbraco. Websites, mobile applications, TV screens, I don't know. Isn't it the age of internet things? It'll probably be like get your Umbraco installation to talk to your fridge or something will be next. And
that's the next thing. So
yeah, I'm going to build it. Just get Umbraco to talk to my fridge or something. Yeah. And, yeah.
It'll be more about raw data and not so much about HTML. Or
yeah, exactly. I can just tell my fridge, go and go and build me.
I'm fascinated about this fridge.
Yeah. I'm going to dedicate my next 3 years just to fridges and the Internet of Things. So yeah, no, I think it's interesting. It's like you say, it is just going to be raw data tools as we grow on. Like I say, the Internet of Things, we are just pushing data from one device or thing, site, phone, fridge. You're just sending probably most likely JSON data from one to end to another. So as long as you can kind of understand those fundamentals and kind of what's going on, then I think you'll have a good interest in web development in the future.
Well, so I think we've been going on about 40 minutes now.
Yeah, and I probably got to go back to work shortly. So.
Yeah, you probably should. So, and also I've run out of questions now. So.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me intern on your show.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming to chat with me. It's been interesting to have the tables turned this week, and yeah, it's always been good to chat with you.
So next week back to the regular program.
Yeah, regular programming schedule. Yeah, I don't know who I have next week. As always, I'm unprepared. It's probably in my calendar somewhere. I'm just frantically looking now.
I saw someone suggesting that you should do like a Google Plus page on something about uHangout, so you can kind of suggest stuff on topics.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably kind of the problem or the key point that uHangout has at the minute. I have no easy way to get recommendations on what people want to see or who want to talk. It's me always kind of just randomly approaching people and going, hey, do you want to chat with me 1 week? And going, well, I can't do this week, but I can do like 3 weeks time. And so it would be good to kind of get a scheduler or some kind of calendar or some kind of easy way to kind of suggest topics and things like that. So that's something I need to do, but how I do that is unclear at the minute. Maybe some. Can you share a Google Calendar? I don't know. No idea. Okay.
Put stuff into the calendar.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe like I want to talk to John this week. I don't know.
I think you can.
I don't.
Like a public feed for any calendar. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here.
Calendar full of I don't know, Asian porn sites.
Maybe that's what I want to appear on my phone at 5 in the morning.
That'll be very entertaining Friday. So
oh yeah.
Yep. Before this goes off track, I guess that. Thank you, Warren.
No, thank you very much, Per.
Coder, jack of all trades, radio host, package developer.
Jack of all trades.
I can put on you. So.
Thank you very much. Thanks for talking, Per, and hopefully, I'll see you at the UK festival.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Catch you later, Per.
Later.
Bye. Bye.